Have you ever wondered how investment bankers and retail investors can study the market to help come to conclusions about where it's going in the future and therefore potentially make gains from the market? Well, if you have and you have any interest in that, be sure to stick around through this video because we'll be going over technical analysis and fundamental analysis, which are two different ways that we can analyze the market to help come to conclusions about where it might be going based on the data that we have today. Also, be sure to stick around through the end if you have any interest in seeing some of the tools that I used in the past to help make some gains from the market. I'm not affiliated with anything, but we'll have a little portion about that, and I'll also leave some information down in the description. But without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. The first technical analysis refers to studying a stock's statistical trend. This can include various real-time data such as price movement and trading volume, and these can be used to help determine the advantageous trading opportunities, usually on a shorter time frame or shorter scale of time. With that in mind, this is usually the type of analysis that's used by day traders and other people who are doing it for a short-term trade. So they might be buying and selling the same day. They might be buying and selling within a few minutes, a few hours. It can also operate on the daily time frame. So maybe you buy one day and you sell a couple days later. But this is very heavily used by people who are trading in shorter time frames. However, it's also important to note that it's not exclusively used by short-term traders. It can be used by people who are looking for long-term investments or longer term trades. However, it is predominantly and very heavily utilized in that short-term environment. And that's because when we're doing short-term trades, the actual assets that are included in the stock, so the company that it represents, might not be nearly as important as the market psychology that interplays with everything else. And when we put everything on a graph, so when we imagine the stock market, all the trades that are going on in a graph format, and we can overlay different data analysis tools on that, you can visually see how market psychology is impacting the market through the price that it's trading at, the trading volume. So that's the number of trades that are happening at any given time. That's all real-time data that's available when we're doing technical analysis. Really in all areas of life, but especially when we think about money, finance, the stock market, people are very vulnerable to two different states of mind. And those are FOMO, fear of missing out. So FOMO, just fear of missing out. When the stock is going up in value very rapidly, people want to get into that stock. They want to have equity in that stock because they want to catch that roller coaster going up. However, on the other side, people also have FUD, which is FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So you can imagine the roller coaster going up, but it also gets to the top and starts going back down. And when it starts going back down, many people have this despair and freak out that happens where they kind of lose connection to their rational mind. And these are all things that we can see when we're dealing with technical analysis. And really, technical analysts are not focused or very concerned at all with a stock's inherent value. So if you imagine that, we'll just call it, I think we used Apple stock last time, we'll use Tesla stock today. Let's imagine that Tesla stock has a certain value that it's associated with because the company Tesla has a certain number of assets, it has certain earnings, and it produces a certain amount of value. Technical analysis doesn't care about that really at all. All it cares about is what value are people attributing to this stock and how is it trading currently and how can we use that data to predict where it's going to go in the future. Whereas intrinsic value is really more of a fundamental analysis concept that we'll get to here in just a few minutes. But technical analysts don't really buy into that perspective if you're somebody who isn't adhered only to one camp, which I will also just say that most people don't subscribe just to one type of analysis or the other. Most of the time, people will use both. However, there are some in the technical analysis camp that think that fundamental analysis, where we're dealing with those inherent values, doesn't really matter. And that's because they believe that the price, it's already built into the market, it's already priced in. And that really just means that the values that stocks are trading at today is representative of their future value because people have already attributed value to it based on the information that we have, based on the knowledge that we have of what's going to impact the stock going forward. So when we think about things being priced in, really what that means is that whatever amount is trading at today, that's really its value in the future. But like I said before, it's very important to note that professional investment banker types, they will use technical analysis when they are trading assets. However, it's not considered best practice to make trading decisions based purely or solely on technical analysis. Most of the time, you're also going to utilize fundamental analysis if you're coming at it from a professional perspective. However, many retail investors And that just means your everyday common person like you or me. Many of us put probably a little bit too much faith in technical analysis and might make some trades based solely on that. And it can work. It does work out sometimes, but many more people lose money day trading with technical analysis than make money. So that would be my caution right off the bat. But I know that might sound all very technical. So let's consider an example here. Let's imagine that we're somebody who's doing technical analysis and we have a stock and it's currently trading at $125. However, based on something called a 200-day moving average, which is really just a fancy way of saying the expected value of the stock based on the amount it's been trading at over the past 200 days. So based on those statistics, it should be trading at $100. That'd be its expected value. But it's trading at $125. If we're a trader using technical analysis, we're probably not going to want to invest in that stock because it's likely to trend back down to that $100 value over some period of time. Alternatively, with the same parameters in play, if it's currently trading at $75, we might want to consider that trade because, again, it's likely to trend up to that $100 value based on the data that we have from the past 200 days. Now that's extremely simplified. There's a lot more that goes into technical analysis than just moving averages, but that's one example of a technical analysis approach. It can just help us understand how technical analysis helps us come to conclusions about a stock's value. However, on the other side of the spectrum, we have fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis doesn't deal with charts in the same way that technical analysis does. It's concerned with a company's intrinsic value, so the assets directly associated with the stock. So again, if this is Tesla that we're dealing with, we're concerned about the production that Tesla has currently, any future plans for growth that Tesla has. We might be concerned even about the global scale or the national scale. So presidential elections, we want to consider those. How will policy changes in legislation impact the value of the stock moving into the future? So we have those micro parts of the stock's value, which is the intra-company, or that's intra, I-N-T-R-A, so within the company, but also the relation that company has to the larger environments around it on the global or national scale. So we want to know what those companies' earnings are. We want to know if there's been any lawsuits against them. We really want to come to a holistic understanding of what constitutes this company. What are their assets? How do they do business? Are they a good company with good holdings? Do customers like them? Now, like we did with the technical analysis example, let's consider now that we are a fundamental analyst trying to determine if a stock is a good investment. So let's consider we have that stock that's trading for $125 again. However, based on the exhaustive research that we did about the company's background, their price to earnings ratios, their future national or even international policies that could affect the company, we've come to the determination that that stock is worth about $100, but it's currently trading at $125. We would, in that situation, probably not see that as a good long-term investment because it's likely to trend down towards $100 based on the intrinsic value of the stock. However, if it's currently trading at $75, but its intrinsic value is closer to 100, then that would be a good long-term trade to take. And we probably would want to invest in it if that were the case. But what does that all mean for you? How can you use these tools? Which tools should you use? Is technical analysis better for you? Or should you be using fundamental analysis? So I'll just say right off the bat, I have had success in the past with technical analysis. I did not trade short-term for very long. I trade short-term in a very short-term manner. I also used very little amounts of money when I did my short-term trade, so I did not make huge returns. However, I did use technical analysis to make consistent profit on the market. I don't necessarily recommend that. However, I cannot argue with the legitimacy or the validity of technical analysis, especially because I have seen it firsthand work. And if you're interested in the tools that I used when I did that, I just did everything on a platform called TradingView. It's a free or paid service. I'll leave a link to that in the description, but no sponsorship or anything. Just affiliate link. If you click on that, they like me better. But yeah, use it or not, makes no difference to me. But that is the platform that I used, and in my experience, it is the best free platform to use technical analysis tools. You can actually use that platform. You can go right into a little tool section where you can pull like oscillators, for example, which is just a fancy technical analysis tool. that helps you show the different trends that the market is currently experiencing. You can use that on TradingView for free. You can use a certain number of these overlays at any certain time. On the other hand, fundamental analysis really makes a lot of sense to me for long-term investments. I think personally, I would not feel comfortable investing in a company long-term without doing at least some degree of fundamental analysis. I really want to know, is this a company worth investing? Is it a company that I want to invest in? You know, that's something we don't talk about very often in the investing world, but you might not want to support all companies based on what you know about them. So when I am looking at a single company to invest in, which I don't do very often, I do want to know the complete picture about them. I don't want to just see data on a chart. So at the end of the day, the truth is that I use both technical and fundamental analysis when I am trying to determine what investments are good for me. However, all that has a giant asterisk next to it because most of my investments are in index funds. So it doesn't really apply to me in the same way. Index funds, if you know about them, and if you don't, I'll leave a little pin up in the video. We talk about them a little bit in the first video we ever did. Pretty much what they are though, it's just a basket of many different stocks all compiled into one. So it's a basket investment. So if you have this basket investment that tracks the S&P 500 or the Russell 1000 or any other primary index, you don't really need to worry about the analysis in the same way because you're not invested solely in one company. Especially if you're in something like a mutual fund that generally has a little bit more of an active management from the whatever institution you use, you're not going to have any need for this because you're not going to have any ability to buy or trade within that investment anyway. But if you trade in something like ETFs, those index funds that are traded like stocks, which are very similar to index funds but a little bit different in execution, then fundamental analysis might play a little bit more of a role for you than it would if you just had a mutual fund. However, again, the use case is not so great if you're investing in index funds. The primary use for technical analysis for index funds, I would say, is if you are trading something, an ETF index fund with a high trading volume, such as SPY. In that case, you might be using technical analysis. That index fund has enough trading volume that some people try to scalp it, is what it's called. So you're just making very small gains on the slight price fluctuations that that stock has at any given time. But I definitely don't recommend scalping. So I would say that fundamental and technical analysis is really for anybody who is interested in investing in single stocks over index funds. However, most people get very badly burned with that, so I definitely do not recommend it. And while none of this is financial advice, because I can't know your situation specifically, I don't have any way to directly interface with you, and even if I did, I would not be qualified to do that. All that to say, I generally prefer index funds when I am using my own money for my own investment purposes. But that's all a very high view of technical analysis and fundamental analysis, what makes them the same and what makes them different. But if you can walk away with this and just have a general understanding of the differences, you're golden. That's my goal here. So if you found any value from this video, I would appreciate it if you could maybe give the like button a nice back massage and subscribe. That'd be really cool because it does help. But without saying any more or wasting any more time, I hope you have a good one. Thanks.